Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to League Analysis. I'm Handygamer, and in this video I will be discussing the third game between World Elite and Samsung, and obviously I will only be focusing on the draft. Again, this is the third part of my video series on this specific semifinal. If you haven't already, check out my previous series about SKT versus RNG. And now, without further ado, let's start into the draft priorities again. Just a quick rundown. I mentioned them in the previous videos. Check them out in case you're wondering what they are or how I came to think about them this way. Again, quick reminder, World Elite kind of pick up their composition as they go. They consider picking the team composition around the jungle pick that they get, which spoiler ends up being Jarvan for the remainder of the series. Samsung try to go for a 1-3-1 in most games and want to be able to choose their fights, which is why they will tend to pick the Gragas quite often. Now, let's actually start into the draft. In terms of bans, no real surprises there. Sejuani 100% banned by World Elite, they will continue to do so. On the opposite side, Samsung, as the red side team, always ban away the Janna, so they ban her away again. World Elite respond with banning the Lulu, so no surprises there. Galio has been removed by World Elite each and every time they were on blue side. And now Samsung adapt in comparison to the first game, where they banned away the Kog'Maw as the third ban in the first rotation. Now they ban away the Rakan. Once again, I think Samsung don't really want to play Xayah Rakan, whereas World Elite have proven that they can do it, they can run it, they feel comfortable doing it, and they've picked it in the first game and won that one. Now they again lock in the well, not again, but they lock in the Tristana as the AD carry, which is similar to the first draft where they actually, I think, went for the Rakan, but still picking top lane for bot lane first. And on the opposite side, Samsung once again go for the Gragas. Despite obviously Jarvan being open, World Elite during the last game in this scenario went for the Jarvan instead of the Gragas. I think, and I think I've mentioned it in every single of my videos, Gragas is always the right choice here. Check out my jungle trifecta in case you've gone this far down but haven't already. Yeah, they also pick up the Taric. Once again, I think it's pretty interesting to see that the Taric is always picked on the red side in this series. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if there's like any special interaction that favors the red side for Taric, or if it's just circumstantial. But it's a fun fact. Now, World Elite once again lock in the Jarvan for Condi. They did it in the previous game. In this game, they aren't gonna play around him as much, but they also log in the Karma. Obviously, the Karma now unlocks the pushing potential of the Tristana lane to its fullest, because obviously you are matched against the melee support who can't really push the lane, so you have a pushing advantage on the bot side with both Tristana and Karma being able to show up the waves pretty easily. On the opposite side, Crown locks in the Varus for Ruler. Ruler was playing it in the previous game. He was doing fine with it. It's completely reasonable to go for that again. I don't think that the picks in the bot side have a tremendous effect on the outcome of the series in general, or of any game in particular. I think the bot lane is influenced mostly by what the other lanes are doing when they come bot, and how the situation is at the other lanes. So yeah, going for utility carry with the Varus, or going for a safe carry with the Tristana, I think is completely fine in both cases. Obviously, you don't want to show your solo laners that early on in the draft, so yeah, you see bot lane and jungle locked in for both teams. Now jumping into pick bans, that's where things are starting to get interesting, because we see the Kassadin ban. The last time these two teams were facing in this setting, which was WE on the blue side and Samsung on the red side. I'm always confused by the team colors, but yeah. World Elite were running the Kassadin as a counter to Taliyah, so I think it's pretty smart from Samsung to remove the Kassadin as a split push threat and try go for the Taliyah again. Obviously, in the previous game, Crown was running the Malzahar, which I think is why Malzahar has been banned. So both teams banning the mid laner that the other team had been winning with. I think that's fine. With World Elite banning away the Gnar as a potential blind pick for the red side team, which they had done in the first game as well. I think that's also pretty reasonable. And banning away the Rumble with the Jarvan, I think is also a decent choice. Obviously, if you don't have the Gnar, you don't have such an easy time in dealing with the Rumble during the laning phase. So I think it's safe to just ban it away, especially if you now have the Shen available as a first pick. That's pretty okay. I don't think you want to run the Shen into the Rumble, so banning the Rumble unlocks the Shen even more. Even though there's still the Cho'Gath left, I think these two picks are perfectly fine. Obviously, as I said, Samsung try go for 1-3-1 throughout the latter part of the series. And on the opposite side, Cho'Gath for 957 obviously is also somewhat of a split push champion because he won't be bullied out of lane and he does have some kill threat together with the Jarvan. So picking that one up is pretty fine. Also, not to forget, Warmox is still one of the strongest items in the meta if you have a champion that can actually use it. Cho'Gath is one of these champions. Now you have a very beefy frontline. Even if Jarvan himself isn't that tanky, picking up the Orianna gives him an additional shield. Now you have the Karma shield for the entire party, and you have Orianna shielding the Jarvan as he jumps in. You still have a wombo combo, you still can follow up with the Rupture. That's a pretty nice all-in composition, but now you have more mobility with the Orianna speed boost and the Karma using her mantra to give your allies not only a shield but also a speed boost. This is a pretty smart adaptation, I think, in comparison to the game before. And now you have more movement, you have more pressure on the top side, and even though now we get to see Crown's Taliyah again, you showed during the first game of the series that you were equipped in dealing or to deal with her. Now you just have to get your bot lane rolling. I mean, you have a if you now compare these two team compositions you have for World Elite, pushing bot lane, you have Karma and Tristana, which will always push out against Varus and Taric, even though obviously Varus does have some strong wave clear himself. You have the more aggressive early game jungler. However, obviously Gragas' kit is designed to deal with Jarvan later on in the game. You have a top laner that is perfectly fine in sitting in the same lane as Shen, because obviously if there's nothing happening, the Cho'Gath himself will outscale the Shen in terms of tankiness. And I think the mid lane matchup, even though you're not really roaming as much as the Taliyah, should also be fine. I think there are better matchups into the Taliyah, but the Orianna, I think, is an okay pick. And as I think they were banning it away from Crown during the first game, I think it's also something that maybe has to do with pick order, that they go for the Orianna to deny it. But I don't know, I don't consider the pick as strong as other mid laners, so you could argue that maybe there would have been better options available. But then again, you had already seen 3 mid lane bans going for a Corki or maybe a Rise. Obviously would have been an option, but you don't need them necessarily. I think you can just go for the Orianna as she matches her team composition. And I think overall, World Elite still have a strong engage composition. They have a lot of follow-up upon the Jarvan Cataclysm. Much better draft overall compared to the previous game, because you also have very strong scaling on each and every one of your carries and laners. The only one that's falling off towards the later stages of the game is the Jarvan. Obviously, support Karma. Karma won't outscale the Taric in terms of efficiency, but overall, very solid draft for World Elite. I don't think there's too much that you can criticize about it. On the opposite side, Samsung, again, they have a 1-3-1 setup that will eventually potentially get outscaled because the tankiness of the Shen is not as infinitely capped or as indefinitely capped as the Cho'Gath's is. But you have with the Gragas a strong secondary front line, so you can actually switch aggro more than you can potentially with Jarvan, who has to kind of be the engage, then fall back, and now you have Cho'Gath, even though he has got the Warmox as the primary front line left. So it's hard to really switch the two because I think Jarvan would have to jump in, go back out immediately. Cho'Gath would have to take aggro, and then Jarvan maybe re-enter the fight and enable Cho'Gath to use his Warmox again. This isn't the case with Samsung. They don't have a Warmox user. They only have the Spirit's Refuge, but they also have the Explosive Cask in case they don't want to take a fight. If they do want to take a fight, however, they also have the Cosmic Radiance out of Taric as a very strong team fighting tool. Obviously, you have certain cooldown windows that you have to keep in mind. Stand United, pretty strong cooldown. If it's up, if it's not, well, Shen is just a champion with 3 abilities, as everyone with his cooldown is down, but he loses a lot of his potential without his ultimate. So yeah, that's that. Also, Talia's wall can be pretty crucial in, for example, taking an inhibitor turret, where you can also use the Explosive Cask. That's, I think, something that Crown has been doing pretty well against Longzhu. Just wall them off if you're in a siege position and take the objective. I think that's what he will be doing in this game again, but I could be mistaken. I didn't rewatch all the games. So yeah, you do have a 1-3-1 setup. You have an AD carry with a long enough range that you can actually wall off enemies from objectives and just go for the objective without actually going for a fight. You can pick and choose your fights because you've got the Gragas. Very Samsung-esque team composition in terms of what they are actually showing in this series. So I think both teams have a team composition that's really strong if you look at both their teams' identities and as to how the synergies are going within their team, how strong the actual picks are in terms of the meta. And I think this is a very even draft. There's no clear-cut winner that has like the easier win conditions or the easier execution. I think both have a lot of potential and obviously a lot of cooldowns that they have to play around. So yeah, that's it for the third game. Thanks for watching. Obviously, I try to cut these videos a bit shorter. Hopefully you're still sticking with me for the very last video of the semifinals. And until then, see you guys next time.